Well, hello again, race fans, and welcome to VirtualRacing.Network's ongoing coverage of the U.S. IndyCar League right here on YouTube, on our channel, where you can go back over several seasons and watch all of these great U.S. IndyCar League races. But today, it is season 15, race number 7 of 12, 127 laps around the famed Texas Motor Speedway, the 2009 version, the one that the racers actually like. And of course, it's going to be presented by the Tunnel2Towers Foundation. So great for racer Rick Kelbaugh, bringing another great foundation to our awareness. And also presented by Stickwick, as always, each and every race here presented by Stickwick for the U.S. IndyCar League. So great to have you with us. My name's Trevor Greenfield, and we are set for 127 laps of action here around this D-shaped 1.5 miler in Fort Worth, Texas. For those of you international fans, 2.41 kilometers is the number to keep in mind. So as these drivers get set for today's action, of course, before you race, you must qualify, and that's exactly what they will be doing. So we're going to take it down trackside and see if we can find some of these drivers heading out there for their qualifying laps. Now, once again, today's probably not going to matter too much where you qualify exactly. There's a lot of drafting to be done, a lot of passing that you can do in the course of this race. It's drafting and passing not at an ultra premium here. There's a lot of raceability. Fahim Rahman not quite getting that exit out onto the out onto the back straight for his first lap. Dan Ensch putting in our first time so far, 24.17. And of course, this championship still heavily in play. And we'll be getting to those championship points here in a minute, but this is your leader. He continues to lead the points here in the U.S. IndyCar League as we are now over halfway through the season. Jason Lowe returning to his competitive ways of a couple of seasons ago, where he was leading the championship and took three consecutive championships here in the U.S. IndyCar League. Now trying to get in his second lap and managing to go second fastest thus far. But here is the man who has 4 consecutive titles to his belt. Comes in here as the defending champion and is looking to potentially take that pole position and get that extra bonus point. He does so right now. But we still have some great drivers still yet to come. David Strid, teammate to Graham Bunyan, now on track. And just putting in he's just about to start his first flying lap here, so we'll keep the camera with him. Another great driver who, let's see, did he make the field today? I'm not sure. No, I saw another driver poking his head in. I thought he might enter today. So far, we've got 12... looks like about 20 cars registered for today's race, so we'll see whether or not any of them can manage to take pole position besides Graham Bunyan. But Joe Bricky getting in a great time there in 5th place. Now, Joe, I believe Morrow and Joe, MJ Ramirez and Joe Bricky, teammates there at Black Tiger Racing. I believe they got out to the real-life IndyCar race here at Texas earlier this season. So perhaps coming in with a little bit of an advantage. I don't know. Maybe if you can get out there and be around the track, you gain a little bit of an advantage or something. But here's David Strid managing to get second place thus far. Dominic Hart now just getting in his 6th place qualifying effort for the moment. Still some interesting drivers who have not yet qualified. As you can see, the top 5 now: Graham Bunyan, David Strid, Jimmy Drinnan, Jason Lowe, and Dan Ensch. Ensch letting us know today that Strid worked on this setup, as we now have David Worrell on our screen. But that Strid worked on this setup, as he does many weeks here in the U.S. IndyCar League. But This is one of the best setups that Dan has ever felt here at Texas, and that's saying a lot. Dan with a ton of experience here, both in fixed series and open series, racing with the Indy Elite series as well. And so we look forward to some great racing action out here per Dan Ensch. David Worrell there getting in 15th fastest in those 2 laps, but the gap is just 15 100ths of a second, so just a 1.5 tenths separating the top from the lowest time on the charts there. And that's extremely competitive. That's really just a corner or two of just barely missing a turn in or an apex. But let's go ahead and get all this stuff off the screen, and let's get your final qualifying results up there. So here it is. This is how they're going to qualify for today's action. It's Graham Bunyan who takes our pole position. No surprise whatsoever to see Graham snagging that pole from the rest of the field. David Strid, his faithful sidekick and teammate there in second place. Although I think Strid would love to see himself emerge as the winner at the end of this one. Jimmy Drennan, surprise, not a surprise actually. Jimmy Drennan coming in strong in this season and really making his name known. Third place for qualifying today. Jason Lowe, 4th. Dan Ensch, 5th. So let's go ahead and take a look here. We'll just go through the whole grid. So there you can see starting rows for today's race. Bunyan next to Strid, Drennan and Lowe going to be starting next to each other. Ensch next to Dominic Hart, one of the front runners in this league. He could take a win any week. Fahim Rahman actually getting in a great qualifying effort there at the end, so getting himself up to 7th. Joe Bricky in 8th. Stefan Harding 9th. He'll be starting alongside Ryan Bowles, who makes his return to the league here. Actually was here, I believe, last week. So he's only missed a couple of races. We'll take a look at the points here in a minute on a caution, and you'll be able to see that a couple of drivers have missed a couple of races this season, and that hurts them in the points. But Bowles is back in it today, ready to do battle here in Texas. And Richard Kelbaugh, Mr. Stick Quick, also the reason why today is sponsored by Tunnel2Towers. And of course, we'll be talking much more about Tunnel2Towers. Hopefully at our first caution, we'll get a chance to play a video for you where they can tell you exactly what they do and all of the positives that they bring to first responders and those who have lost their lives in the course of serving the nation, etc. So you'll get a chance to see that at our caution. Let's go ahead and finish up running order here. It's going to be Mauro Ramirez next to Rick Lovison. And then in 15th, David Worrell starting next to Will Stearns. Robert Mason next to Mike West. Manuel Gomez Esteban there in 18th next to Iñigo Mardones. And Gordon Keeling going to be rounding out the field with 21 here today. And I saw another driver enter earlier, but I guess he decided last time we were here at Texas, a one-off driver popped in, and I guess he decided he didn't want anything to do with today's race. 21 cars set to do battle here in Texas. They're gritting up side by side here as we're just about to exit turn 4, and Graham Bunyan will step on that accelerator pedal and lead us to the green flag with David Strid alongside. We're set for 127 laps of action. So the cars slowly begin to get up to speed here on the backstretch. Strid now flanking the outside of Bunyan. Drennan closing in quickly, and we look to see how the drivers will manage this race. This is so key to managing your tires, deciding who and when you're going to battle. And do you want to control the front? Well, that has been the MO of Graham Bunyan every single race thus far, if he can. And it's always good to have your teammate right behind you there with David Strid. So these drivers starting to settle in. Now let's take a look. Joe Bricky, it looks like he slid back a couple of spots since the start. Fahim Rahman now back 4 spots from where he started as well. So perhaps not able to keep up at that same pace that they were once at in qualifying. Fahim Rahman now taking that inside line right around that white apex line that you see there. And he is slipping back very, very quickly. So Rahman fans trying to find out exactly what is taking place. But nevertheless, the top 6 remain exactly as they started. Bunyan, Strid, Drennan, Lowe, Ensch, and Hart, your top 6. And now we're seeing Dan Ensch making a move around Jason Lowe. So last week, we saw Dan Ensch trying to go back to his fuel-saving ways, and we talked with, actually, we've got Stefan Harding now up high in the corner, and not sure if he's working just that high line. We'll watch on board and see here. He is working the high line, and it looks like he's trying to make it work around Dominic Hart, but not quite able to. But back to the other point of Dan Ensch, that's kind of been 2 tails of Dan Ensch. He spent so much time fuel saving and trying to meet those fuel numbers so he can snag a win, and it's such a great, valid strategy. But it just doesn't seem to be paying off. Week in, week out, the cautions kind of fall at the wrong time and hurt that fuel strategy. And so leaves him kind of holding the bag as far as trying to get back up to the front and have a raceable car. So here this week, qualified 5th, he's up to 4th already, and driver out of Indiana is looking to possibly take a podium position here today. Take a look a little bit further back. Here's Richard Kelbaugh. Currently has Fahim Rahman on his inside. You can see Fahim racing him hard there through 3 and 4 and across the start-finish stripe. Mr. Stick Quick having to do everything he can to hang on to 14th there. So how about this driver, Ryan Bowles, in action here, and in 9th place, up 1 spot so far. It's now looking on the inside of James Kennedy. Kennedy having taken victory here in a previous season in Texas, and I believe Bowles took a victory here in Texas as well. I have to go back and check my notes on that one. But just behind, you see Joe Bricky racing his teammate Mauro Ramirez. Identical cars there for the Black Tiger Racing team. That is for 10th place. So we jump on board with Joe Bricky. This is what it looks like riding in 10th right now. You can see all the cars right up in front. You're an iRacer. You're so used to seeing something just like this and just trying to hold on to that guy in front. Hold on to that draft and try and find a way to not lose the car coming off of turn 2. That would be devastating. But you have to mitigate all of that dirty air coming off of the car in front, and it can be quite violent here at Texas Motor Speedway, especially if you're trying different lines, or perhaps you get a little bit lax on your entry, not really realizing where that aero push is going to drift the car to. Really have to watch out for that kind of thing. So we look a little bit further back, and this is Will Stearns now battling with Richard Kelbaugh. This again for 13th, 14th position. Looks like Will Stearns will make his way through. And in the meantime, up front, it is still Graham Bunyan, David Strid, Jimmy Drennan. That's where they qualified 1, 2, and 3. But so far, Dan Ensch, one of the only drivers in the top 5 to actually make a move. And so far, he's gotten around Jason Lowe, but Lowe now looks on the high side. Dan covers that high side line. So 15, now 16 laps we're working here in Texas, Fort Worth, Texas. So great to have you with us here on VirtualRacing.Network. Dominic Hart checking in over on the YouTube stream before the race. Just letting us know, good luck, everyone. Have a great race. Fahim Rahman, good morning, Trevor. Yes, good morning to you, Fahim. Looks like you're doing quite well out there, managing to get... You got a great qualifying spot, but you kind of drifted a little bit far back into 13th. We'll have to see if you can get some of that qualifying magic back in there and get back up into the top 10. From that trio of Black Tiger Racing drivers. But Fahim also having some technical difficulties over the course of the season. And in addition, good morning and happy birthday to Graham. Indeed. Okay, well, we did not know that it was Graham's birthday. We probably should have. Seeing as how Facebook seems to purposefully keep us away from some of our friends' information and instead feed us sponsored ads instead. But Graham, happy birthday indeed, taking pole position and perhaps more here today. He looks like he's in control of this race, and that's not good news for everyone else. So we continue here, lap 20 now working, and it's pretty much the way that they qualified as now Dan Ensch has now slid back into 5th. Jason Lowe getting by. Let's go ahead and take a look at that pass. Here it was, Jason Lowe working that high side line, and Ensch kind of thinking, well, I don't quite want to go sliding out into Jason Lowe. Maybe I'll just let him kind of work his way around that high side and take that pass. So Lowe reclaiming 4th and now 1st through 5th exactly as they started. Here's your first driver who's been making moves. Jimmy Drennan. I'm sorry, Stefan Harding now up 3 spots from his qualifying position and looking at the backside of Dan Ensch, possibly for 5th. And there he scraped the wall on the outside, and he's hit the wall on the inside. Commentator's curse strikes again, and Mr. Harding is the unfortunate recipient. This is not bringing out a caution flag. Let's see if we can just back it up a lap here. We're going to take a look on this replay and see if we can tell what happened to the driver from Melbourne. It's just, you know, he was riding that, just kind of that outside edge on Dan Ensch there, and now you can see he's limped it back into the pits. That should be a quick repair for him, and he'll be back underway. But, of course, this being under green flag, that will heavily affect his race. So back to it. This is Graham Bunyan still in control, and now we jump back to the next driver that we can curse by mentioning his name, James Kennedy. Currently in 7th spot. He's gained 5 positions thus far, a couple due to attrition that have already happened. There he's working around the outside of Stefan Harding, who we just saw had a moment. And looking a little bit further back, here's Ryan Bowles. He's up 2 spots so far, kind of running by himself at the moment. MJ Ramirez just behind, and he's gained 4 spots today so far. So he and Joe Bricky there for Black Tiger Racing, now with 2 drivers for Black Tiger in the top 10. David Worrell in 11th spot. And Dave in the cave, as he's known. Currently up 4 spots for him today. Fahim Rahman, the 3rd driver out of that Black Tiger Racing stable. Currently back in 12th, so possibly going to get 3 drivers today up. And I know Fahim started up in the top 10, so perhaps that... Oh, and we just saw just in front David Worrell, and I believe that is Joe Bricky. Yes, it is. And that will bring out our first caution. I just caught it out of the corner of my eye, so once again, we mentioned several drivers, and we managed to do a good job of cursing them. So here we go. Let's see if we can tell exactly what happened here. So this is Bricky on the outside. Looks like he's at full speed here. He's not trying to get into the pits or anything. I think he just gets a little loose there on the outside. So let's see if we can go a little bit further back here. So let's watch from Worrell's point of view and see if we can tell exactly. We're following Bricky here. Bricky's on the outside. And then he just kind of comes across. I don't know. Let's go ahead and we'll take a look at it from Bricky's point of view. My goodness, what a violent collision that was. So here is from Bricky. Now, what happens here for him? It's almost as though he doesn't see Worrell, but I'm not really sure. It just kind of looked like he was slowing down a little bit. Either way, violent collision, and now basically everybody here on pit road. As you can see, Bunyan, Strid, Drinnin, Lowe, and Ensch, your top 5. So that will give us a chance to pay some bills right off the bat here, and we'll be able to talk, or actually listen, to the Tunnel2Towers Foundation, the presenting sponsor of today's race, thanks to Richard Kelbaugh. Please have a listen. And looks like we're having a little bit of difficulty with that, so I think we'll just go ahead and do our live read here. So as you can see there on your screen, it is, of course, the Tunnel2Towers Foundation, which has paid off mortgages for 22 fallen first responder families across 16 states. An absolutely amazing story, and it's just kind of the beginning. $250+ million raised in support for heroes and their families, 450+ mortgage-free homes delivered or in progress, and so we apologize there. We're having a little technical difficulty trying to get that video loaded, so we promise we'll get that for you on our next caution. But the Tunnel2Towers Foundation, you can reach them t2t.org. We'll make sure we get you some more information on the next caution there. Just the video not, unfortunately, playing for us this week. But fantastic organization doing so much for fallen heroes and their families. In the meantime, why don't we go ahead and take a look, since we have still a moment, to see the current points. We'll get here on the screen. And so you can see Jason Lowe still holding down the lead. Graham Bunyan in second. The lights are off on the pace car. Nothing's changed there in the top 5 this week. Iñigo Mardones actually dropping a spot, but Ryan Bowles gaining 3. Richard Kelbaugh also gaining a spot. Dominic Hart losing a couple, but the main thing is those bonus points keep accruing for Graham Bunyan. He's already gotten 1 for getting on pole position. He's also had another one for leading a lap. So will he get the bonus point for leading the most laps here today? That is a good question. We will find out momentarily. So this was our first caution. And now Graham Bunyan will lead us back to the green flag. Nothing's changed up front. Everybody got their tires and fuel back underway here at Texas Motor Speedway. So under green flag conditions, in fact, we were looking at 31 to 35 laps according to Dan Ensch, but the caution coming out right when it did meant that none of these drivers really had to do green flag stops. In fact, that's what I kind of thought Joe Brickey might have been doing, was trying to get into the pits and come down late off of the high line, but that didn't seem to be the case. So Bunyan now leading. Appeared to have some smoke on the backstretch. We just had a moment here with Iñigo Mardones passing Rick Lovison for 14th. See if we can figure out what happened here. We just had an incident between Brickey and Mardones, but it did not bring out a caution. So I'm not sure. Is this just Joe Brickey coming to a stop? Simultaneous? Yes, it is. Okay, so what about Iñigo Mardones? Now, this looks far worse. Just back this up and take a look. Here's Mardones here coming up to speed in the middle of your screen in the pink and white and black, and it looks like the car just goes around. There's no other drivers involved, no net code. It just looks like he maybe had the weight jacker set a little high or something and took the rear out. So we jump back to the live picture, and Ryan Bowles now up 5 spots and running in 5th position. So Bowles now joining this fight at the front, taking 5th from Dan Ensch. Also, James Kennedy in the mix. And it looks like Jimmy Drennan possibly going to be giving a shot at David Strid, now trying the outside. And indeed, Drennan now side by side with Strid coming off the corner. Strid reemerges. And that kind of stuff might work on these drivers' tires a little bit. So you've got to be careful holding too tight of a line around these corners, because it will scrub those tires. And we're just at the very beginning of this stint, so you definitely wouldn't want to cook out those tires. Let's take a look at the weather. That could be a factor here today. 106 degrees on the track. It's interesting, we don't have a date shown. But nevertheless, 106 degrees Fahrenheit here on track. And that's really the big important point. Although that 15-mile-per-hour cross breeze is something else, as Ryan Bowles now makes his move down to the inside of Jimmy Drennan. I believe we just saw Jimmy Drennan drifting back there. Let's see if we can go back and see if we can tell. Here's Lowe working on the underside of Drennan, and like smelling blood in the water, there's Ryan Bowles behind and tries the freight train and gets it done on Jimmy Drennan. That's the way to do it. Let someone else part the Red Sea, so to speak, for you. Look a little bit further back there. I think that was Will Stearns trying to make a move around Robert Mason, looking down to the inside. But now he's fallen back. So Just to recap, you are watching VirtualRacing.Network's live coverage here of the U.S. IndyCar League, and it's the 7th round from the Texas Motor Speedway, the 2009 version. Graham Bunyan qualified on pole and has led every lap of the race with David Strid in tow. But so far, several other drivers looking very competitive, and I think at this point, everyone just trying to work that strategy, keep these tires fresh underneath them. And figure out where they want to be at the end of this one. Pit strategy being crucial factor, and so you do want to think about how many laps are left and where you might end up if the race continues to be a green flag race. So Bunyan, Strid, and then now Lowe back into that third position. You see him there in that chrome car up high on the racetrack. He loves that high line. That is Jason Lowe's, one of his absolute favorite tricks of the trade to utilize, running the high line, which sometimes is a little easier on the tires and sometimes gives you a little bit of extra speed down that back straightaway, or I guess down any straightaway, to possibly give you a pass. So now Lowe looking to the inside of Mardones, and Mardones, of course, having that incident there on the restart, and so he is now back 4 laps down now. So looking through the field, it looks like we're pretty spread out. Drennan now settling into that 5th spot, though he can see Ryan Bowles just in front. And this is also one of the things I should mention. This is one of the tracks where drafting is it's very available. I mean, you can pull a draft, as you probably know by now, for about a second and up to about a second and a half back from the car in front. You can actually start pulling a draft on that car. So this is one of those tracks where if you perhaps make a pit stop late and nobody else does and you get fresh tires, you can utilize that draft very advantageously and kind of slice and dice your way through this field. But the reverse is also true. As we look just up in front, this is Bowles battling with Drennan here. No, I'm sorry, getting by Iñigo Mardones. But so the problem, if everybody's on the same set of tires, though, is you don't really have any way to utilize that draft and then be able to gain a small advantage by cutting deeper into the corner and holding that faster car, which, you know, if you're drafting, for example, into the corner, you're going to be several miles an hour faster than if you're just by yourself on the track. And so as a result, you carry more speed into the corner. And if you don't have those fresh tires to hold the car at that extra speed, well, then you're basically not going to go anywhere because the car can't hold extra grip. So what that basically means is, even though you have this monster draft, if you don't have the tires to take advantage of it, you might just stagnate and you might even fall back a little bit just because the driver that's in front that can break the clean air has an advantage. So all of this is why when you've got Graham Bunyan out here in the lead and David Strid just behind, and it looks like everything is just operating like clockwork out here for these drivers, the reality is that how they take care of the tires throughout every single one of these laps, the lines that they take through the corners, and whether it scrubs extra speed onto the tires, and obviously how they affect the weight jacker, the anti-roll bars through the course of the stints, is going to determine how much wear gets put onto the various corners of the car. And so, as I was trying to say, when you're out there and you're racing and, for example, you're Jimmy Drennan here, running in 5th spot, you are thinking in terms of micro changes that you can make. How can I enter the corner a little softer? How can I carry the car a little bit better through the corner, gain a little bit more speed on those cars in front? How can I possibly stay in that draft and not fall out of the draft? All of these thoughts are going to be running through each and every one of these drivers' minds constantly through this whole race. So, may look nose to tail, but as these two drivers are racing side by side, this is Dan Ensch and James Kennedy. Kennedy now taking that 6th position, and speaking of 6s, that is now 6 positions gained for Kennedy. So keep an eye on that Sparco Racing number 75 machine of Kennedy. So continuing around the racetrack here, Kennedy is. And currently 4.34 seconds separate Kennedy from 1st position. And the driver just in front, Jimmy Drennan, 1.83 seconds. So we'll have to see whether or not Kennedy can catch and hold that draft. But it is starting to come down now, 1.6 seconds up to Drennan. So let's just stay on board here, and we'll see if we can watch Kennedy utilize that draft successfully to catch up to Drennan. And then he'll basically be looking at a possibility to get back up into the top group. So you can see ahead, Drennan kind of taking the higher line, 1.4 seconds now the difference. So here we have the graphic down in the bottom right-hand corner where you can see how the time each and every lap is starting to fall between Kennedy and Drennan. You can see it now substantially coming down now that Kennedy has gotten by Ensch, and Ensch is now just 3/10 back, and you see Kennedy kind of fighting with the car coming out onto the backstretch. So perhaps right on that edge of how this car wants to handle. Holding it nice and tight through the tri-oval. That gap now just 1.29 seconds. So continuing to fall, and exciting stuff if you're a fan of these Indy cars and you love watching these races develop and watching drivers slowly try to take a little bit out of that gap. It's so crucial. By the way, we've had Stefan Harding come into and leave the pits twice. And now it looks like Richard Kelbaugh has also made another green flag pit stop here. So Mr. Stickwick choosing to go off strategy. Not sure if he had an issue. It doesn't say that he's had any sort of issues. So riding here on board, continuing with James Kennedy as we're now working on lap 64. Kennedy out of Dallas, Texas. So you know he's probably got his own box, his own sweet box up there in the grandstands that we're just now seeing in the picture. But that gap now down to 1.2 seconds, and it looks like Jason Lowe and David Strid now into the pits. So Lowe actually ahead of Strid into the pits. And I am looking to see, he must have gotten that pass done just beforehand, because there it is. Okay, so let's see if we can tell how Jason Lowe got by. Was David just very conservative? In fact, he was extremely conservative getting in. And I mean, we talk about this every week, and certainly Dan Ensch brought it up in his notes to me today. But this is a treacherous pit road. It's one of those very, very fast entries, very short entry kind of tracks that's difficult to get exactly right. And for a driver like Strid and a couple of other drivers who have had a lot of difficulty getting onto pit road and getting the car stopped in time, I mean, I've been in this exact same position as we now watch Jimmy Drennan taking over the lead of this race with Kennedy and Ensch, your top three. But I've been in this exact same position before, and it is not easy to pace yourself down to the exact, super slow speed entering the pits. It's kind of crazy sometimes, as we're now seeing all of these drivers now onto pit road. Manuel Gomez Esteban. I kind of thought that Gomez Esteban was not going to be in today's race. At least I thought that was the message that I heard earlier today, and that he would be back for Watkins Glen. But so great to have him in the field, as it is always great to have our international drivers outside the United States. And of course, as we now see Dan Ensch making his pit stop, Jimmy Drennan continuing there. But the U.S. IndyCar League will be, and we now have a caution, as it appears Jimmy Drennan and Fahim Rahman have gotten together. So let's go back and see if we can tell how this has gone down. Well, here is... oh my, and there is Gomez Esteban right in front, a sitting duck, as Jimmy Drennan comes around, and Jimmy Drennan essentially taken out of the lead of the race. And that is horrible news, but see if we can go back and figure out exactly what took place there with Gomez Esteban. Looks like he was just exiting the pits here. Perhaps got the car spinning up, yep, on the apron. And normally that's not such a big problem, but you see he spun right out into the path of Drennan. And also collecting, looks like Joe Bricky, or possibly nope, that would have been Joe Bricky there. So, unfortunate, very unfortunate, as we go back to the live picture, but this does now give... in fact, this gives the lead back to Dan Ensch. So, there you go. So, it's a good time for us to continue talking about Tunnel2Towers Foundation and everything that they do. And we'll go ahead and keep this live picture for you up here at the top so you can check it out. But here in the background, you'll see these photos playing of just all of the events that were for opening these houses, in which these are mortgage-free houses given to those who have served the country, the United States of America. And so the mission of the Tunnel2Towers Foundation is to honor the sacrifice of firefighter Stefan Siller, who laid down his life to save others on September 11th, 2001. We also honor military and first responders who continue to make the supreme sacrifice of life and limb for the country. And so there is so much more, and I think that's one of the things is they're creating smart homes for disabled veterans and first responders, so that it has all of the additional features that you would need to be able to simply say, turn on the lights or start the dishwasher or anything along those lines. And so these fallen soldiers are able to operate their entire homes with just the voice activation. And so that's just one of the programs. They're doing great fundraising efforts and raising awareness by doing 5Ks and different events. You can get into all of this and find out so much more on their website, t2t.org. And you can also make your donation today. They certainly appreciate it. If you want to get out for one of those events, definitely check it out and see their schedule and let them know that you saw this broadcast here. And obviously thank Richard Kelbaugh, Mr. Stickquick, who is also part of the other presenting sponsor that we'll get a chance to talk about later, for bringing this to our attention as always. And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk with Mr. Kelbaugh at the end of the race. In the meantime, welcome to all of you who are joining us right now here live on VirtualRacing.Network. We're just coming back from caution that was brought out a moment ago when Manuel Gomez-Esteban spun onto the back straight. And so now Dan Ensch in the lead of this race, it's still shown, and now having to circle around and try and figure out how to get slotted in behind the pace car. We're going to let this one kind of clear out here for a moment. And so this is our second official caution of the day. We did have a crash earlier that did not bring out a caution, and that affected a couple of drivers. And so as everybody basically got the wave around the pace car, we still have a driver shown in front of Dan Ensch at the moment, but Ensch is shown as the leader. So I'm not exactly 100% sure why that driver was not waved around. I believe that's Dominic Hart. Yes, in fact, that is Hart. He had the Porsche paint scheme for a couple of weeks, and now we have the yellow submarine. Typically, we've seen Matty Simpson when he joins the league racing in that paint scheme. But I'm not quite sure why he has not been waved around and why he will restart at the front of this field. Either way, looks like we also have a car stopped down low. I believe that's Manuel Gomez-Esteban, who's just waiting for everyone to get around. So the pace car pulls off. And though it's Dominic Hart in front, it will be Dan Ensch who will lead us to the green flag. And Hart will have to do everything he possibly can to try to, I guess, hold on to this lead and hold on to his lap. Because as soon as Dan Ensch gets up a head of steam, Ensch is going to be looking to take that lap position back. In fact, he does. And so now Hart pulling into the pits and serving perhaps a black flag penalty. Not really sure what that was all about, but either way, Ensch now back in control. Graham Bunyan in second, though just behind that's Fahim Rahman, and Graham Bunyan goes high to try to get by Rahman. David Strid just behind in the light blue car. Thank you to those of you who are joining us here on VirtualRacing.Network. Live coverage happening here of round number 7, just back underway, and Fahim Rahman now tries to make a move with Graham Bunyan in tow around the outside of Dan Ensch. We've got some more action happening just behind. Looks like Lowe, Kennedy has now gotten by, and Bowles and Lowe fighting it out there for 5th place. But back at the front, here it is, side-by-side battle, Dan Ensch and Graham Bunyan. Bunyan on the outside as we head down the backstretch. Texas Motor Speedway. Bunyan trying to snag that position on the outside. He's going to try to be decisive about it and either snag that position or fall back in line. You won't want to race side by side for too long, as it will affect your tires. And of course, there is a cross breeze out there that might affect several of these drivers. He tries it again. Bunyan to the outside of Ensch, now racing for the lead here in Texas. On board the 101 machine from Brisbane, Australia. CC's to the left-hand side. Ensch, now he'll try the over-under move. And he's got Ensch. He kind of pinned Ensch there to that mid-track position. And Ensch wasn't able to close down to the inside fast enough. And so Bunyan taking that slingshot move. Now, perhaps that's good for Ensch, because even though Ensch was doing a great job out in front, controlling the front, he may want to sit back and perhaps save a little bit of fuel in this pack. Not sure, but we'll watch on as the ALZ.org last lap motorsports machine has now gone from first to third, but still up 2 positions today. So, as you saw, he's fighting for a top spot in this championship, and certainly he's got his best chance at a championship that he's had for quite some time. Ryan Bowles now poking his nose to the middle of this group, trying to get by Dan Ensch and Kennedy. Kennedy now drifting back as Ensch gets back by, and here comes Bowles on the inside. David Strid now emerging at the front, and Bowles getting so close on exit to making contact, but he keeps it held down low. Bowles holding that low line. Kennedy on the outside. There you can see just how close it is. Looks like Kennedy going to hold that position on entry, but here comes Bowles back. And just as I say that, we have a side-by-side battle kind of happening up front. Not sure if Bunyan is trying to make that pass around Strid. Perhaps he is. He's certainly basically trying the same thing that he did with Dan Ensch, kind of flanking that outside corner, but perhaps that's just to mitigate the draft effect that he's getting off of Strid. You never know with these wily old veterans exactly what tricks they're employing until you see a pass made. But nevertheless, teammates Strid and Bunyan at the front of this race and sharing the lead here. Not a surprise, as we're now 3/4 of the way through this one, or coming up to 3/4 of the way, excuse me. 88 laps now being worked on. And as these drivers exit on the backstretch just behind, there's some more side-by-side battling. This is Lowe and Bowles fighting it out for that 4th spot. So Lowe also racing for Rescue Ranch. A lot of these drivers trying to bring awareness by racing with certain organizations on their side pods, and also being willing to pay for the privilege of being able to get a little bit more awareness here on the broadcast and be able to have a live read or a video played of their favorite charity or foundation. So, of course, Rescue Ranch part of that, and also the ALZ.org just up in front. We get a chance to talk about them each season. So, Jason Lowe on the outside, but here comes Bowles right up behind. This is your tightest battle happening right now. This is the battle for 3rd spot. Ensch, Lowe, and Bowles. Ensch in that, I want to say it is purple and fuchsia and pink and white machine there on the inside. Lowe, the chrome machine, and Bowles with that burgundy and black combination. Looks like Ensch has emerged off the front, and now that is leaving Lowe and Bowles to battle it out for 4th. We've got, I believe that is Stearns having a problem. Just got it a little loose there and managed to correct it as it was coming off the corner, but now sliding back, just dropping out of the top 10. Back at the front, David Strid here on lap 93 continues with Bunyan just behind, and I think they've managed to pull the gap. So, not sure if Ensch is going to be able to reel them in, but we'll keep an eye on that gap. And just behind, you see this kind of four-way battle happening here. And if Jason Lowe can manage to get back up there, you're going to have a five-way battle happening for third place on the track here momentarily, as we see Bowles now closing up on the back of Dan Ensch. Is he going to try it? He drifts down to the low side as Ensch drift up high. So Bowles definitely managing to get the position, no problem. Jason Lowe, though, deciding to pit early and take that final pit stop of the day. Will that undercut maneuver pay off to his advantage? As you see, Will Stearns had taken a pit stop and has now left the pits as Graham Bunyan gets very high through the corner. David Strid pulls it into the pits, but I tell you, that was some scary stuff out of Bunyan. He got really close to the wall there. So now Lowe exits the pits. Why don't we go ahead and get the track map on the screen? You can follow along your favorite driver and see where they are. We're right now looking for where Jason Lowe is going to emerge out into this group. And so there he is, kind of shown at the back half of this field. And so once Bunyan makes his pit stop, we'll have to see if Lowe ends up. Here comes Bunyan from the lead into the pits. And it looks like a proper pit entry, so well done for the four-time consecutive champion. And where does Jason Lowe end up emerging? Here's Lowe. So Lowe is down a lap. He'll have to come around a full lap before we'll see whether he'll emerge exactly in front. There's Ryan Bowles making his pit stop. Rick Lovison now up into the fourth spot on track. As pit stops are happening, some drivers choosing to take that high line. There was Dominic Hart. Here's Richard Kelbaugh. You can see it's starting to get a little crazy here. Lowe with those fresh tires, utilizing that drafting advantage. A lot of these drivers going to be trying to get into the pits. You got to kind of pedal it through there. So now Lowe, you can see Graham Bunyan now emerging from the pits. And so this is going to put Lowe at a small disadvantage, but he is now just, there's Lowe just up in, there's Bunyan just up in front, and that's also Strid. So Lowe has emerged perfectly where he wanted to, and that undercut strategy has worked very, very well, as he's now actually managed to chip into that gap that had been worked out between Bunyan and Strid over Dan Ensch. Effectively taking off a couple of seconds off of that lead. So Lowe actually pulling one over on Bunyan and Strid, which is not an easy thing to do. And at the moment, we have Gideon Keeling out there on the track in the lead. He has not yet pitted. But the number 11 car, as well as Robert Mason. Is this Robert now coming into the pits? Yes, taking a very conservative line entering the pits, so he will give up that second position momentarily to Jimmy Drinnan and Graham Bunyan when they make their way around. But back to Gideon Keeling, who is your current leader at the moment until he makes his pit stop. So Jimmy Drinnan also will need to make his final stop, as we now see that Robert Mason starting to tumble down through the order. And once again, Graham Bunyan and David Strid, Jason Lowe soon to emerge as the leaders once again on track, as soon as Gideon Keeling and Jimmy Drennan do decide to make their pit stops. So here, Keeling taking that bonus point for leading a lap. Going to pull it down. Always tricky, and it seems like you could do 100 pit stops here and do the entries about 100 different ways. It's one of those things that we do talk about with Graham Bunyan, who's on your screen now and about to take over the lead once again. But practicing those pit stops could be one of the biggest keys to getting you those extra positions at the end of the race. And so, as we mentioned, here's Bunyan, Strid, and Drennan now Stone in third spot, but he will soon be pitting as he last stopped on lap 70. So we'll walk through the field here in just a moment and give you a rundown. Here comes Drennan. So you see how late Drennan was to finally come down onto the apron, and yet some drivers wanting to be a little bit more conservative, they'll pull it down on the apron quite a bit earlier and take the reduced speed around, just so that they don't have some sort of they don't have an accident where you're straddling that apron line down at the bottom of the track, and one tire is on the track and one tire is on the apron, and one's banked and one's not. Easy to spin out from something like that. So here's your top 5 at 19 laps to go. It's Graham Bunyan, who leaves David Strid and Jason Lowe in third spot, Ryan Bowles in fourth, James Kennedy and Ryan Bowles here basically racing for fourth, but also Dan Ensch still part of that battle. So while these drivers have been separated from the top 3 and essentially that battle by about 3 seconds, they are racing for fourth spot, and that is crucial. Ryan Bowles actually still up in the points, and he's taken 2 less starts than anyone else. So Bowles, still has a great shot at this championship. Unfortunately, because of the fact that he's already taken 2 weeks off, he's not going to get the same chance as everyone else, as there is just 1 drop week. But nevertheless, you keep showing up for all the races and you keep getting those points. He may very well end up in the top 5 in the points despite that extra week dropped. So these drivers still racing for 4th, 5th, and 6th on the track. We take a look a little bit further back. Here's Mike West, who's also doing well in the points. And he's gained 11 positions today from Yakima, Washington. One of our few West Coast drivers in this league. Hopefully we can change that a little bit, but you can kind of understand these drivers do get out there and practice quite early in the morning. Out here, my alarm goes off at 5 o'clock in the morning to get up and do these broadcasts. And if you want to race, you got to get out there for the practice ahead of time, which starts 6 o'clock out here on the West Coast. So yeah, it takes some dedication, but I don't know, for different drivers it just makes sense. So this is Mason now working that low line, trying to get by Mike West, but not quite able to get it done. Here's on board, very bright green colored car of Mason, who's having a great race here, running in 8th place. He's up 9 positions. Taking a look on that high side, and once again, just not able to get that high side to work the way that it's intended. So right now, as you can watch, he'll take the high line, and you would normally get a little bit of a run. As you can see, he can work with that draft, but now where do you want to position the car? So Robert Mason continuing the high line, but there is a downside to the high line as well, which is technically it's further around the track. So if Mike West is able to hold that inside line with no problem, well, you know, you're going further around the track. But the advantage being that the car is so much more open in its turning radius that you actually can carry more speed through the corner, and that means a faster exit onto the straightaway. And so that's the give and take here at Texas. We've been seeing it all day. Some of these drivers able to get that outside line to work and some not. But you can see here the battle for 7th spot between West, Mason, and Keeling continues to rage on. Back up in front, just under 10 to go, now 9 remaining here at Texas Motor Speedway. And Graham Bunyan, currently your leader, David Strid in 2nd, and Jason Lowe in 3rd. And you can see, I believe that was Will Stearns, who's now currently a lap down, getting up very, very close to that outside wall. Sometimes we hear the scraping effect, but I don't know that may just be kind of a netcode thing, thinking that they're hitting the wall, but not in effect able to do it. Now we can see, we were just looking at this battle a moment ago. Looks like Mason has now dropped back a little bit. Mike West in control, and Keeling now up, trying to challenge West for that 7th spot. Meantime, just in front, this is Bowles, who's managed to walk clear of Kennedy for that 4th spot. And we can see that Dan Ensch there in 3rd, or is 3rd in that group, 6th on the track, and once again continuing to put in those strong performances here in the league that has gotten Dan up into the top positions in the points. So just 5 more laps remaining. Sorry, 6 more laps remaining. 5 this time by. He'll get the high 5 from Barney the flag man, just meaning 5 more ticks around the Texas Motor Speedway for Graham Bunyan to add to that points total. And I think, given the bonus points, we'll just have to see how the points all work out at the end of this one. But I think we're going to be looking at possibly a tie for this championship in the lead going into our 8th round of the season next week. So this should be pretty exciting if they do finish where they're at, heading for the rest of the season. As this man here, Jason Lowe, continues to look at leading this championship, as he's taken that early lead in the championship and held on strong, had a lot of great finishes. However, the one driver, and there Lowe unfortunately hits the wall with just 3 laps to go. Will it bring out the caution? Dan Ensch almost making contact, and Lowe looking for a safe place to get down on the track. My goodness, 3 times today, commentator's curse has struck, and Lowe starts tumbling down through the field. Well, I was just going to say, he, oh my goodness, and Lowe now falling further and further back. Turned into an absolute disaster here for the driver with multiple championships to his name. And that's how easy it is. Perhaps losing a little concentration, perhaps the tires doing something a little crazy, but white flag is out for Graham Bunyan, and it's smooth sailing to the end here. All he's got is just 2 more corners to click off and add to that points total. The driver from Australia qualifying on pole and leading every one of the laps that he wasn't in a pit cycle deficit. There it is, Graham Bunyan taking your victory here at Texas Motor Speedway. So an exciting one here, as we had multiple different groups trying different strategies. And that allows Strid and then Kennedy to finish in 3rd. So absolutely an amazing race for those drivers as they will continue to move up in the points themselves. So before we get to our post-race interviews, why don't we go ahead and talk about our final favorite product that you've never heard of? Have you never heard of it? I mean, we've been talking about it a lot. It's pretty cool. And since there's so many viewers right now, maybe you're new to the US IndyCar League. You've never seen this. But what is it? Is it magic? What is this craziness that gets all of these utensils on the side of this refrigerator to stick there? How is that possible? Inside this medicine cabinet, they're not even using the shelves. Everything is just sticking to the doors and the inside. Here, you're working in your commercial kitchen. You need your spatula, you need your tongs. Just stick them to the side of the stove. I can't believe nobody's ever thought of this. How is it being done, you ask? It's the Stick Quick. Now, Stick Quick, proud presenting sponsor of the US IndyCar League for multiple seasons on now, has made this silicone ring that is UV resistant, chemical resistant. It's going to last probably longer than whatever utensil or pen or whatever you're putting inside of it. And you can do so much with it. Why? It's not magic. It's magnetic. They both start with M, but one is a myth and the other one is very much in your hands with the Stick Quick. Put it on your vape accessories, your vape. Put it right on your dash. Put it in your toolbox. I just saw that MJ Ramirez posted on the Stick Quick Facebook that he is got his tools on his Snap-on toolbox, and you can too. So that's it. 6 of these come to a package. You can get them in 6 different colors. What more do you need? They make a great gift. Any anniversary, birthdays, holidays, fantastic gift to give. Obviously, for anybody in the house, I would say perfect for the man of the house, but of course, that's not true. It goes into anywhere of the house. Anybody can use it for any reason. Stick stuff to the bottom side of your car. Who cares where you're sticking stuff to? Just stick tons of stuff. Buy a couple of these packages today. Stickquick.com and tell them that the US IndyCar League was where you saw this infomercial here. And I'm sure they will be very, very happy to know that their sponsorship is working very well. So we are going to be hopping into the interview circle here momentarily, and we'll see if we can grab some of our drivers who are waiting. And I think we're going to get a chance to talk maybe with Dan Ensch here, who appears to have drifted in and can give us a little heads up on his race. Hey, Dan, do you have me there in the interview circle?
Yeah, I got you. Boy, drifting is the right turn there. I'm 6th with 2 to go, and all of a sudden I'm 4th. I don't know how that happened. Can you recap for me?
It was an exciting, from my standpoint, because we were watching here on VirtualRacing.Network live, your battle there going on with Robert Mason and Gideon Keeling. You tell me how that went down, because, well, I mean, that was just one of the exciting parts of your race. You were leading for a short period of time. You had a fantastic strategy coming out of that round of pit stops. What put you into that lead? And did you think that you had something for the rest of these drivers at the end of the race that you could have possibly taken victory?
Well, the first round of pit stops, I just happened to stay out there long enough that I got into the pits before the yellow, and I beat Graham across the timing line, so it gave me the lead for a little while. The last set there, I probably took on a little bit more fuel, or I might have been with that lead pack at the end. I ended up with about 2.5 gallons more than I needed, so I miscalculated my fuel and couldn't run as fast as I would have liked to, and that's why Jamie and I believe it was Ryan, we were in that 3-pack you're talking about, and I guess Ryan ran out of fuel or something, and I know Jason had some bad luck, so here I am.
Well, my goodness, Ryan running out of fuel, didn't know that one, but he was running up there so well today, and yeah, you kept it clean. Now, Dan, did you do the fuel save strat today? Was that your key, or would you say that just going up there and racing as hard as you could was the way to go?
I went just a little bit of fuel strat on the first go around to make sure I was one of the last ones to pit, and obviously that paid off because I was in the yellow. in the pits when the yellow came out, and that put me out front. After that, it was just flat out racing and trying to go as fast as I could and keep up with everybody. And we didn't do too bad. I still lacked just a little bit of the guys like, Graham and David and those guys. But I had a good time today, and I think I was a solid top 6. So I'm getting better.
Getting better either way. It's one of those championship kind of days. Whether you can get up there and get the podium or you get 4th, you get tons of good points for it. You even get a bonus point for leading a lap. Congratulations, Dan, on 4th and staying up there in the top of these points. Still a few more races to go, but you got to be feeling good. We're over halfway, and you are still in the top 5 of the points.
Yeah, and it's always good to get more FaceTime for Alice.org, and I'm glad I could get them up front and get a little bit more FaceTime for them. And also thanks to Stick Quick for putting on the races as always, and everybody else that helps put these together, including you, Trevor.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And thank you, Dan. Good luck with the rest of your season, bud.
Thank you.
So that is Dan Ensch, 4th place racing with the ALZ.org Last Lap Motorsports Group, and bringing great awareness there. Fantastic job by him to stay up in those points. So looking around for other drivers that want to be interviewed. I guess everybody's got some Sunday stuff to get off to. So why don't we go ahead and we'll just cut to the chase. We'll talk to the man that everyone wants to hear from, none other than Mr. Graham Bunyan. Now, Graham, joining us here in Victory Circle for the interview, so familiar for you. But Graham, is today your birthday?
Man, I'm from the future. I'm on the 18th now, not the 17th.
Oh, that's right. Yesterday
yeah.
was your birthday.
Copy that. Yeah, it was ended an hour and 17 minutes ago.
Well, happy belated, and obviously it must feel like a time traveling thing to go back and win a race on your birthday in another part of the world. But in your part of the world, it's the day after. Okay, I can't even keep track anymore. So congratulations, Graham. I mean, you took pole position here, and it looked like the race was no sweat. But take us through the whole race and kind of what you worked on here today.
Pretty well much it was all down to aero push, really. Fuel, and last pit stop was a balls up because I actually put like 11.5 litres on more than what I should have, which is, I think it's about 4 gallon, something like that for you guys. So I wasn't even thinking what lap I was on. I still thought I had another pit stop to do, but it wasn't. It was the last.
So that obviously put you at a slight disadvantage, but then we saw you trying that high side move on Dan Ensch, and eventually you managed to pip him there and go and do the old over-under move onto the backstretch. But that seemed to be about the most difficult amount of racing that you had to do today. And other than that, did you feel like there was any challenge coming from avoiding lap traffic, or was there any trick to managing the front on this race?
Yeah, I had to soften the front up a bit just to get a bit more bite when I got in behind cars. So it wasn't so much playing with the weight jacker as much. It was more playing with the ARB. But yeah, look, it's hard to make a setup here at Texas. It's either a loose setup or it's follow the leader and aero push galore. But look, I got out. I think Dave pitted his second last pit. I went around on the outside and I went a little too high, and I got up in that marble and I thought I was going to go into the wall. I had to slow right down because it's just so loose up there in the marbles.
And I saw that. I was so scared for you. You were right up there next to that wall. So no contact there, but somehow managing to avoid that. Too bad, though, for Jimmy Drennan, who was having a very interesting race and leading the race, though he was off pit strategy, collecting Manuel Gomez Esteban in the middle of this one. Fortunately, you didn't have any sort of contact with a car like that or one of the lap cars here today. But nevertheless, it's got to feel great for you, Graham. You were down in the points earlier this season. You've had some great runs recently, and now you're back up there challenging Jason Lowe for that championship lead. You may take over the lead, given the fact that Lowe had such a problem there at the very end of the race. And so for you, it's just got to feel great to get right back up there and be in control of this championship.
Oh yeah, look, for sure. It's been great this season. I've had a few bad starts, internet connection. Thank you to the world. But yeah, a couple of little things that have gone wrong. But I'll always try and make a comeback. And I think I should be in front now by a good, 30 points, maybe thereabouts, 28. So I'm back up on the top. But look, I think Jason will still give me a run. I'm not sure what happened to Jason there today. I think he was using the high line, and when you use that high line, and if the car in front of you wants to run that high line as well, you're going to go straight into the wall. So I'm not sure. I've got to go back and have a look what happened to Jason.
I believe that's exactly what happened. That happened to a couple of drivers. That same sort of thing where the driver in front was close to the wall, but not all the way out to the wall, and that gave them the opportunity to think, okay, well, I'll kind of hang out on just the outside corner, just put my right side tires just maybe 2 or 3 feet further out than the driver in front, and then that arrow push coming through the corner just sweeps up there and snags your car and makes your car go further out on exit than you think. Was that 16 mile per hour wind an effect on you today?
Look, the car, coming out, if it was blowing back towards turn 2, my car was just bogging down in turn 2. I was losing so much power. So I think, it may have played a bit of an issue that way. I don't know. It's just one of those tracks. It's hard. It's just hard.
It's just hard. And that's the thing, we talked about it during the race, is it's hard because it can be side by side, intense action, or it can be everybody nose to tail for 20 or 30 laps. You don't know exactly how it's going to play out. It depends on how aggressive everybody decides to get. But at the same time, even if it is nose to tail, something like your partner pitting and you wanting to avoid them and you get almost up into the wall, it can change in an instant. And so you got to keep your head on a swivel at all times. And obviously you're one of the absolute best at being able to do that. So looking forward going here next week, of course, the famed Watkins Glen Raceway. And we've got New Hampshire, Phoenix, Michigan, and Indy. Just 5 races remaining here. Next week, road course. You ready to get out those right-hand turning skills again?
Oh, definitely. It's been a while since I turned right. No, I love turning right, but look, don't underestimate the rest of the field there. There's some guys there that have been practicing, and they're pretty quick now. So I don't know what they've been doing, but they're doing pretty well. I know there's been a lot of practice by a lot of people for Watkins Glen and a few of the others. So I don't think I've got it won. Definitely going to be a challenge next week.
Well, that's exactly it. We expect some very different cars to be up there at the front at the end of this one next week. And who knows who will turn out, and who knows. I mean, that's the beauty of this league. We could just have a one-off driver decide to show up and try to give you everything they got, Graham. Either way, congratulations on your awesome victory here today. Return to the championship lead. And once again, congratulations. Happy belated birthday and taking victory here in style.
Nah, thank you. And look, congrats to the podium. David Strid, James Kennedy up there again. Dan Ensch, good to see him actually out there racing and not fuel saving. That's great. And Robert Mason too. He sort of jumps in and out every now and then and up there in the top 5. But it's been good. Been great. Tunnel2Towers, I don't know much about those guys. I think that's for mortgage-free home loans or something like that for the veterans. So I think that's a great cause, and thanks for them for sponsoring, and also Stick Quick and yourself up there in the box.
And of course, we greatly appreciate you and bringing all of the attention and awareness that you do, of course, to all of these sponsors and to the US IndyCar League each week by putting in such an amazing racing caliber that you do. Graham, you're the best that's ever been seen here in the US IndyCar League, and every single week we love tuning in to see what you're going to do next. Look forward to it next week, bud.
Thanks, man. Thank you very much.
So that's Graham Bunyan once again joining us here in Victory Circle. And if you're out there watching this race and you think, okay, 21 cars in this Texas race and I could give this one a shot, well, the link's right down there in the description. Go ahead and click through that link. You go right over to iRacing and the member page for the US IndyCar League and go ahead and apply. If you've done IndyCar racing at all, that will be to your credit, and Jason Lowe will get in touch with you and probably invite you out for the Saturday practice session where you get a chance to try on these Indy cars and see if you got what it takes. Also, any sponsor business inquiries for the US IndyCar League or VirtualRacing.Network, feel free to send along the link, same down in the description. Also, our email address will be down there for you. As I mentioned, next week will be the Watkins Glen Raceway famed road course in New York. You want to be here for that one. It should be a very, very exciting. So on behalf of all of the competitors here in the US IndyCar League, congratulations to Graham Bunyan, who takes victory here, round number 7, for the Tunnel2Towers presenting sponsor, as well as Stick Quick, David Strid 2nd place, and James Kennedy 3rd. Until next week, have a wonderful rest of your week, everyone, and enjoy the real-life IndyCar race from Toronto. Bye-bye, everybody.